Okay, good to go. Good evening. Calling school committee to order. For.
They're not in, I'm sorry.
What? I'm sorry.
Want to make it? No.
Video stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you. If you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background could be recorded. The recording could include any opinions you contribute and anything you say about yourself. On occasion, chat within the meeting could also be captured in the meeting recording. Therefore, anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not.
Thank you, Jessica. Attendance?
Yep.
Roll call?
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Wolanin? Mr. Kelly? Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier? Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson? Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois?
Yes. Happy New
Yep.
Year.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman?
Yes, here.
Okay.
Second item is approval of minutes. We have at our table, is also sent to us, the minutes for Thursday, December 8th, 2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Sure.
Second. Are there any comments? Are there any potential omissions? Any possible deletions? Any other potential corrections? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Wolanin?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson? It's not here yet. Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's support of the committee, I'm going to take two items out of order. And this evening, I know we don't have any students this evening. It'll be from the Student Advisory Council. I know we'll hear more next month. So if there's no objection, I'd like to do the audit first and move that up. We have the auditor here and the subcommittee met. And I'm going to turn it over to Joanne Cormier. And if there's no objection, seeing hearing none.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So the audit subcommittee met right before this meeting with Mr. Peacock, who was representing Powers and Sullivan, the company that did the audit. And just before I hand it over to, I don't know if it's Cheryl and Mr. Peacock, I just want to make a couple of comments to the committee. The auditor started off by saying how well-run the audit was he does like 100 audits, and this is one of the most well-run audits he has ever experienced. He gave a lot of props to Cheryl and Stacy. They did an outstanding job, very thorough job. Just looking at, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Anything they asked for, they got answers right away. And they didn't have to wait for anything. So just for the committee to know that the financial department here in the Quabbin Regional School District is among the elite when it comes to this auditing process. They have all their ducks in a row. There were no permanent no, it was a clean opinion, which is the best outcome possible. There were no irregularities or errors. The auditor was overall impressed. And I just wanted to put that out there. And it's due to the fact that Cheryl and her department do an outstanding job.
We are unanimous in that opinion.
So I guess I'll turn it over to Cheryl now.
So Mr. Craig Peacock is online virtually with us tonight. He is a partner with the Powers and Sullivan auditing firm that this district has used for a number of years. I believe this is Craig's second audit with us, and I'll let him go through the reports with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Craig Peacock, a partner with Powers and Sullivan, partner on the district's audit. And as was mentioned, we just met with the subcommittee and we kind of drilled down, into the nuts and bolts a bit and into the facts and figures. And so what I'll try to do here is be a little bit more efficient, give you some high level overview of how the audit went and how the reports look. And by all means, after that, I'm more than happy to either, if there's any more specifics or if there's some way you would like me to drill down a little bit more into, I'd be more than happy. But I would have to reiterate the comment that I just heard that, from an auditing standpoint, I'm really impressed with the way Quabbin Regional School District is run. The finance office has their hand on the beat of the district, if you will, lack of a better way to say it. As auditors, when we come in and we ask various questions, whether it's in Quabbin or any of our clients, if someone can't answer the question or they sort of have that deer in the headlights look, like they're not really quite sure what we're talking about, and it just occurred in this past fiscal year and it takes days to get us to support. Well, as auditors, we have to maintain our professional skepticism and make sure that what we're seeing and hearing is true and accurate. We have to be able to support the numbers within the general ledger that ultimately make it into the district's financial statements. And I can't say enough about your team. I mean, weeks prior to us starting the audit, we have 80 to 90% of what we've requested already uploaded and ready for us. And those items that are maybe inconvenient, if you will, or cumbersome to scan and put up on a portal, they're all ready and waiting for us when we arrive, at the district's offices. Your team is never afraid to call, or maybe afraid, or apprehensive to call and ask a question throughout the year. If maybe a unique transaction comes up, to make sure they're thinking about how to record it properly, which really is an asset to both the district as well as us as your audit firm, because it kind of keeps us in the know of what's going on. There's not many communities, cities, towns, school districts that we come into and are provided with, again, 80, 90 to 100% of what we need within the first few days of the audit. We can't ask for a better situation than that. And what that tells us is that absolutely that your finance team is involved in the day-to-day and planning operations for the district and is very aware of what's going on and can readily provide all supporting documentation needed for the conduct of the audit. And so we're here to discuss the fiscal 22 reports and the financial statements. What I would say received an unmodified opinion, which is the cleanest opinion that you can get. That is what the district would want to receive. As mentioned, all of our requests were answered timely. Supporting documentation was provided for each and every account that we needed to look into. We have no permanent audit adjustments to provide to the finance team to make to the district's general ledger. That means that things were done properly the first time. We're all human. Everybody makes a little mistake here or there. I might post to a wrong account, but your team is always looking and reconciling timely, which means that should ever something occur, it's always detected and corrected in a very timely manner. And that's strictly because of the strong internal controls within the finance department and how everybody operates there. You know, I can certainly drill down into more of the financials if anybody's interested, but again, the macro level is the audit could not have gone better. The district received the best opinion that you could have received. Usually there's two other reports, one being the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which quantifies and reports on all of the federal dollars that the district expended in the current fiscal cycle. And then at times, there is a management letter, which could either be, if there's maybe some areas of concern that as auditors we see, maybe some internal controls that could be structured a little differently or some changes in processes. Before I get to the schedule of expenditure of federal awards, I would congratulate the district on not receiving a management letter this year. And it was strictly because when I look back for the last 5-6 years of management letters, each and every time we have a comment in the management letter, your finance team jumps on that comment and make sure that, you know, we've had conversations over the years, make sure that they understand the whys and such, and jumps on to implement a process so that comment is gone in the next year. I look back and I have almost never seen comments drag on for years. I cannot say that I don't have clients that have comments that have been there for 6 and 7 years. And I'm talking about the same thing each and every year. Your team is very proactive. They jump right on. If there is anything that can be adjusted or updates to some procedures or internal controls, they'll jump on and make sure that they understand where to make changes, and those changes are always made in a very timely manner. And honestly, throughout the conduct of this year's audit, not a thing came up that we could not support, that we could not find proper documentation in a very timely manner, and that your team did not understand what was going on and able to explain to us if we asked other questions to make sure that we completely understood. And as I mentioned in the previous meeting, we audit approximately a little over 100, whether it's regional schools, cities, towns, collaboratives. This is the business that we're in. This is the genre that we're in. And out of the 100+ a year, I'd be hard pressed to say that there might be 5 a year that don't end up with a management letter. And it's not that we, as a firm, we try not to be what I would say extremely picky, let's say. As we all know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so as long as we come into a particular client, in this case, Quabbin Regional School District, and things are being reconciled timely, they're being recorded properly, maybe I might zig left to end up right, and someone else might maybe go right to end up left, but we end up at the same spot. And as long as there are no internal control deficiencies in what we see, and the information that we're provided is supported with proper approvals, proper third-party supporting documentation, depending on the type of transaction we're looking at, we're okay with that. We are not going to force any of our clients to do things the way that maybe we might do it. Again, as long as the processes in place are efficient and effective. And I'm very happy to say that we had amazing results in the audit this year, and we did not issue a management letter. We did, in fact, issue the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which is a pretty standard report done every year. The district, spent about $3.8 million this year. The number has trended up over the last few years, absolutely mainly because of the COVID pandemic and the fact that the federal government has been, providing all sorts of different type of federal grants, whether they're direct or through the state, but there's still federal dollars that need to be quantified. And through our audit, we have to assess the level of expenditures each year of federal dollars and determine which grants we have to, what I'd call, dig into the weeds and look at the compliance requirements provided by the federal government and such. And through our audit this year we had to look at some of the COVID monies, the ESSER funds, elementary, secondary education, school emergency relief fund. Again, every dollar that was spent, we were provided support for, and we did not have any findings or question costs. Again, that is what the district would want. And the opinions, there are 2 opinions within that report. Both opinions have an unmodified, clean opinion. And I can't thank the district and your financial team enough this year. I mean, all audits really with the district go pretty smoothly because your team makes it a priority when the audit is scheduled to assist and gather the information needed to essentially allow us to do our job and to support each and every account that we need to look at within the balance sheet and the profit and loss statements of the district. And that information is provided to us even before we hit the field, within the district's offices. And again, I think as mentioned up front, when we ask questions and we're able to get answers real time, and it's evident that the personnel we're speaking with is aware of what we're talking about, it really gives us a warm feeling that your team has their hand on the pulse of the district, has the district's best interest at hand, is looking for ways to utilize the funds that the district does have. I know budgets each year are, can always be a little bit tight. The last few years with COVID maybe opened up a little bit of leeway with some of the grant funds that came through that were able to be utilized for what might be typically general fund budgetary expenditures in past years. That will change. I think we're probably getting to the end of the federal funding that's coming out and such. Some of the last set of grants has to be committed within the next couple of years and then spent soon thereafter. And as far as we know at this point, we're not aware of any other large federal COVID related grants that will be coming out. So one would expect within the next year or two that the district's federal report and the level of expenditures budgeted for within the general fund will sort of go back to what I'll call normal, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, just prior to the pandemic. But that's standard right across the state of Massachusetts. All districts, cities, towns are in the same boat on that one. But in summary, I was extremely impressed with the level of support and the timeliness of that support provided to us, the preparation done prior to us hitting the field to start the conduct of the audit. as well as the ability of your finance team to really make the audit a priority. And when we're in the field, work with us and, work to answer questions and obtain the proper and necessary info that we need to facts and figures in a very, very timely manner. That's sort of the, the 100-level view. I could drill down if anybody has any specific questions, but the audit went extremely well. Everything was well supported. I really couldn't have asked for it to go any better, to be completely honest with you.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Are there any questions from school committee members? I got a couple, and again, thank you. And again, as we continue to learn, not only the language, but understanding the requirements on the budgetary end and then the compliance end. What is our, on this analysis of 2021, correct? 22?
22.
22. What are our liabilities? We have some debt, correct?
So the largest liability, so again, the district's financial statements report 3 different bases of accounting. And that's consistent within the state of Massachusetts. There's budgetary basis, which you all are probably very familiar with. The various reports that you see are based on appropriations and the flow of funds, how the collections are coming in. I know assessments are, some of the biggest dollars, so those you don't really have an issue collecting those. But the budgetary statement essentially kind of mimics the district's general ledger, if you will. And then there's what we call the modified accrual basis of accounting, which for pretty much all school districts, it's very similar to your budgetary basis. There's not too many differences other than the school's capital stabilization fund gets grouped with the general fund for what we call fund-based purposes and fund-based presentation. That then leads us up to the front of the report, which are the full accrual financial statements. And those statements are made to quantify every asset and liability as of the end of a particular, in this case, fiscal 22, as of the end of the fiscal year, worst case scenario of what the district could be looking at. The question focused on liabilities. So right now, the largest liabilities on the books of the district, the 2 that are always talked about are OPEB, other post-employment benefits, the benefits that people receive upon retirement, health insurance and such, and then the pension liability through the Worcester Regional Retirement System, both of which, because of very good investment performance and such, and some abilities to make some changes, or for the actuary to make some changes in the latest reports, in the assumptions used to produce the liabilities. We saw approximately about a $7.2 million decrease in the other post-employment benefit liability for the year ending June 22, and about $1.1 million decrease in the overall net pension liability, which now the net pension liability is reported on the district's 22 financials, but just please keep in mind that pension systems are reported on a calendar year basis. So the reason this year that the pension systems also had such a great investment earnings year and such is because they're being reported as of December 31, 21, December 31, 21, prior to 22 beginning, and sort of all the ups and downs that we're now experiencing within the stock markets and such. So that allowed most pension systems that, and we work with quite a few of them, to actually report, a really good showing as of December 31, 21. Couple other liabilities that are the largest, other than OPEB and pension, would be bonds, long-term debt. The district hasn't gone out for long-term debt in a number of years. And they have you have about 525,000 remaining, which will be paid off about another 5 years, 4.5, 5 years. And then there's the compensated absences accrual that gets reported, which is sick and or for those that have any vacation eligible to be bought back upon retirement. That liability as of June 22 was about $1.7 million. Those four clearly make up the largest liabilities on the district's full accrual financial statements.
Thank you. No, that was the question I just wanted to know. And again, I truly appreciate your, aside from the excellent response from Cheryl and her team, very competent, caring, committed folks. The controls are in place. What we say we're budgeting and we're apportioned, we do that appropriately. Line items are dedicated correctly. Proper movements are done when needed. And when you've done the dipsticking, all the recordings, reconciling, and the efficiencies are all in place, correct?
100% correct.
Good. That's what I wanted to just highlight. Is there anybody else that wants to make a comment or a question? Back to you.
Okay.
Did the committee make a recommendation?
Yes, the committee recommends to accept the two audit reports, one for the federal grants and then the other financial report.
Second.
Okay, so subcommittee did it, and so you made it, seconded, and further comments? Questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps,
Yes.
Mr. Willannon,
Yes.
Ms. Garvey,
Yes.
Ms. Cartier, she's not here, Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Cormier,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson. She's not here. She was there. Yes, she is.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mrs. Thompson? I'll come back to her. Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And Mrs. Thompson? Mrs. Thompson?
Can you hear me, Jess?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just had my earphones in.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. That's okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that update and the report and all from that. Over, any final comment?
Not except to say goodnight, Mr. Peacock.
I wanted to say that.
Thank you all very much for your time. And as always, I mentioned to the subcommittee, I am always available for questions. Cheryl knows how to get a hold of me. If anything ever comes up, I'm more than happy to discuss anything to do with the financials or anything that relates to the audit. If there's ever anything that the school committee or the subcommittee is trying to understand or learn, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. More than happy to help.
Thank you. And absolutely. We know you're available and with Cheryl as well. And aside from her continuing educating all of us and correcting us when needed for our language, for usage of language. We truly appreciate your language so everybody can understand it as well. I know in your world, there's other complicated language, but you did bring it down not only to the control piece and the efficiencies. And at the same time, I just want again, I think speaking for my colleagues, we again want to recognize the administrative team that we have in the business and the financial perspective that oversees the district. So again, thank you, Cheryl, and your team.
Thank you, Mr. Brophy.
So, okay,
May I just
yes,
publicly thank Cheryl and her team also. I think in the Quabbin Regional School District, this is not unusual for us to have this type of audit report. And it's because we have an outstanding team. It is not the case, as Mr. Peacock pointed out, but I think as a superintendent, when I talk with other superintendents, it is not the case very often that school districts have this type of report ever, but highly unlikely that a school district has an audit report year after year after year that is an outstanding report. And so we are so fortunate to have Cheryl and her team. They have the highest standards for themselves and for us to comply with their protocols. And they make extraordinary efforts to ensure that our district has financially sound practices. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Sheila.
And if I could, Mark, just make
Absolutely.
a comment. I think this is something that really should, be noticed by the towns and the select boards, that this is a system of checks and balances, and how, when they question, where is the money going? What's happening? They're asking for more money. It's right here. I mean, this audit report is evidence of the outstanding job that this district is doing with their financials.
absolutely, yes.
And just so that you know, when we get the final copies, they do have to, by law, we have to go out to all of our select boards. So I will be sending those out.
Great. So thank you very much. Back to the agenda, and I need to take one other item out of order, and it will flow in. We will briefly be into executive session for briefly an update on strategy to respect to collective bargaining with our potential strategy for our contracted negotiations and for non-union personnel. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
Is there a second? Second. What we do is we'll vote to go into executive session. We will then go into executive session. We will come back. This will be a brief, it will be brief. And we will be back in public session to go right back to the item of the administrative reports, right to the superintendent of schools. So.
Mr. Brophy, just for those who are joining us virtually, Mr. Walsh, who is our technology director, will put the school committee and members of the administrative team that will be part of executive session into a breakout room. Everyone else will, I believe, remain in the open meeting. And then so if folks are joining us virtually, you can just sort of stay where you are, and we will be back shortly.
Roll call for executive session.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois?
Yes.
Chairman Brophy?
Yes.
I will let you know as soon as we are there. Andrew will let us know.
Do we need to close the door, Ben?
I just wanted to say thank you all for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Sorry, they've headed off to the executive session.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
night now.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we're back in session. Just a quick report out before I go to the superintendent of schools, administrative reports. Just as we were in executive session, I just wanted them to defer, we wanted to defer the notifications that we received for collective bargaining, the QRTA, the paraprofessionals, and the custodians union have already notified. So we're pushing that over to negotiation subcommittee to start its work.
Okay.
And the others will be forthcoming, but at least you know the notifications have
You want me
occurred.
to, my first thought was, do we need to schedule something next week? Jess will have to post it. Or do you want to wait till after the meeting, or?
I think we could look, I think we just have to look at our calendars, so maybe we can communicate with you, Mr. Deschamps, about what would be a time that we could all, coordinate with Nancy and others, but
Pretty full calendars next week.
we do, but I do think it would be great if we could get a meeting on the books next week.
And unlike you and Cheryl and Nancy Landry, we're retired, so we're a little bit more flexible.
Okay. Superintendent of schools, administrative report. Dr. Muir.
All right, Mr. Chairman, before I begin my formal report that is posted in the portal for all of the committee members, and I will bring that up on the screen shortly.
Yep.
I did announce to make a public announcement at this meeting tonight that I will be, I am submitting a letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement to the school committee with a retirement date of June 30th of this year, 2023. And without going into a great deal of detail, I will say that I have felt extremely fortunate to have the opportunity to work for many years in the Quabbin Regional School District. It's been my home as a student, as a parent, and as a professional. And it's been just an incredible opportunity. This is a very, very, very special school district. And I feel honored to have had the opportunity to work and lead and teach here. We have an incredible team, we have an incredible school committee, and we have laser focus on our students and doing what's right for them. And that's a rare thing, to have so many stakeholders in a large, complex organization, all aligned in commitment to our students. So with that being said, I again have very mixed feelings about leaving my professional home, but it's the time in my career where it's right for me to make a change. I'm looking forward to having a little bit more flexibility and doing some things that I've put on hold for many years. And I know that I will leave behind a district that's in very, very good shape. We will have a strategic plan in place. We will have newly negotiated collective bargaining agreements. Hopefully, we will also have a budget accepted by our communities by June 30th. And we have, we've accomplished a tremendous amount in the last 5 years, and I'm really proud of what our team has been able to accomplish and what we've accomplished as a district in the last 5 years. And I only hope that when I took the job, when I interviewed, I promised that I would do everything that I could and do my best to lead the district. And I only hope that as I do move to my the next portion of my life, that that you all agree that I fulfilled my responsibility and that I fulfilled my promise to you. So with that, I will move on to the formal part of my
And
report.
before you do that, I don't know if there's any comment from any school committee member. I just want to start and say, thank you. I know it's a life event and a decision was made. Thank you, giving us the notice as quickly as you could. You have spent 30 plus something years in education. You have had, there'll be time to talk about the accolades and the successes and the challenges and the rewards that you have done, not only for this district, but throughout your career and the lives that you've impacted. And it will be absolutely phenomenal, the amount of lives that you've impacted. And you're on to another part of your life. You are not going far at this moment. I don't know what travels or where you might end up, but I just wanted to say thank you. You have been an absolute a tremendous leader. There's no baloney, no puffing around. You continue to take on the tougher arguments and discussions with the committee members or with whatever you do. You have an exceptional leadership of conflict resolution from small to large, and also, advocating for our students, the budget and what we do. So I just wanted to make a comment that I would have loved for you to stay longer.
Oh, yes.
As we all know, but I know, is there anybody else that would like to make a comment or a
Yes,
statement?
thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Your garden will be the best it's been this summer.
So on that note, I know the superintendent was there. With this notice, we'll have a superintendent search committee will be formed to make what the decisions will be for the process that we will go through. So any member who would like to be part of that, please email me ASAP along with Jessica. I already had a couple of inquiries already, but we need to get that done and get a meeting together to be able to go through the process of what is best for the leader. Because remember, that's the number one position that we hire is the superintendent. And I look forward to the next steps, whatever that is. So again, best wishes. You're not going anywhere. We have a lot of work to do. We appreciate everything and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate it, but I do feel it's very important for me to say that anything that I have accomplished has only been because of the team that surrounds me. We have incredible leaders and incredible educators in this district, and that's what really matters. Superintendent is only one part of a very, very large team that makes everything happen. That being said, our strategic planning team met last week, and we did have 23 participants. We did have a lot of all of our administrators, but we did have some parents, a student, town officials, and staff. And it was great to have the community input. We also have a survey out there that, as of this morning, had about 415 responses, which is quite impressive. I'm really happy to have that number of responses. I don't think maybe at the beginning of COVID, we might have had a survey with that many responses, but it's wonderful to have so many responses. And I think that we will close that survey tonight, and we will begin to work with that data in addition to the data that was collected at the planning team meeting last week, and work that the leadership team did prior. So several more meetings before that larger team gets together again, but that work is well underway, and we should, no reason that we should not have a draft to you in late, maybe early your April meeting. Most of the things on the rest of my report are really, updates from other sort of ongoing topics. We're working on the branding. We've got our mascot and and logo out there. Therese Salvador, who's our district communication specialist, is working very, very hard to make sure that those, that we stay true to those images. It has been a challenge, I will say that. So we're gonna keep plugging away at that. With that, unless anyone has any questions for me, I will turn it over to Colleen and Joe, and they can bring you a little bit of an update.
Any questions for the superintendent? And then next month, school improvement plans?
I was going to talk with Dr. Allen. I think we will
Okay.
bring those to policy in February and then to full committee in
Beautiful.
February as well, so. Mhm. Joe or Colleen, would you like to give your report?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you, Joe.
So I'm doing the Director of Teaching, Learning and Sport report for this meeting. We have a few different things that we're reporting back on. We're going to do a mid-year curriculum review over the next couple of weeks. As you know, we adopted a new ELA curriculum, K to 10. This is our first year of implementation. So we're going to be gathering some educator feedback from the survey on sort of how that's going and what's working well and where we can continue to get better. We've also begun the process of reviewing both our math and our science curriculum in the secondary school. We've had a couple of meetings for those, and those will be continuing over the course of the spring to think about whether the curriculum is continuing to meet our needs. In terms of the implementation of that ELA literacy curriculum, in the in the K to 6 grades, we'll be doing the benchmark assessment process in the next couple of weeks. Those are assessments we do 3 times a year to measure students' reading levels. We will use that data to determine which students are at benchmark, which are above, and which are below. We use this information so that we can plan classroom instruction and provide additional supports or interventions. We're going to share the data from those assessments at the next policy subcommittee. We're also looking at tutoring for some students in grades 7 through 9. We've issued a request for a proposal for tutoring. We're looking to do online tutoring program for students in a 1-to-3 ratio, but with live instructors. It'll be 30 minutes a day, 3 times per week. We opened the proposals that were submitted on Tuesday. We're hoping to have this up. We're planning to have this up and running by January 23rd. The tutoring will run during flex block. And the students were identified based on MCAS results and will be assessed using a pre and post assessment for the tutoring program. Another update I wanted to share, the Innovation Pathway has started a DECA chapter. The business program specifically started a DECA chapter. And actually they attended their first competition today. So I have not yet heard how that went, but I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. And that is all I have to share tonight.
Districts moving on to states.
Actually, Mrs. Bennett just has an update from the DECA competition. So they placed at the district level and they're moving on to the states. So that's great for our first competition. That's wonderful.
That's great news.
So, questions for Joe?
Any questions for Joe? Yes.
What is the ELA curriculum? What is the name of that new curriculum?
In the elementary schools, it's called Interreading, and then in the secondary schools, it's called Interliterature. It's really the same curriculum, but obviously the focus changes and they changed the title slightly.
I'm familiar with that. It's a great program, in my opinion.
Yeah, we like it.
Yeah, I love it. I myself use it in my district, and our district has that program as well. And we've had it for 2 years now, and we've seen some pretty good success with it.
That's great. We think we've seen some success already, and hoping for more, obviously.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew?
I have a brief update on the technology side. So the security system is nearly complete. All the original cameras have been mounted, both interior and exterior. There's a couple of slight adjustments that have to be made. We're still waiting on a change order for some additional cameras and the integration of the old door lock and release systems into the new camera system, as well as a final punch list walkthrough that we're going to have a meeting on tomorrow. Since our last school committee meeting, the tech department has closed 210 user support tickets for a total of 1,575 since the start of the school year. And that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Andrew? Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Andrew.
Dr. Campione is not with us tonight. She's actually camping out on Antarctica tonight as we speak.
Antarctica?
Yes. She is on a trip to Antarctica. She's on an amazing, life-changing, once in a lifetime trip. So she's
Wow.
doing something I would never, ever do.
Camping in Antarctica.
Yes. She's on a trip and I'm sure she'll share a lot more with us when she returns, but she, as part of that trip,
I want to report.
a few people on the trip there was sort of a lottery for this opportunity to camp out. And she won the lottery. I would not call that winning, but so we can't wait to get her back here and hear all about the trip and everything that she's experienced. But she does not have a report tonight, so we will move on to Cheryl.
Okay, since our last meeting, I have issued and opened 3 different procurements. I spoke to you last month about sending out our very first oil bid on our own rather than going with French River. I cold mailed it to 11 companies around our area, and 2 came from the Combi State website. I only got 1 bid. I actually received 2 bids, but the second one was late and I could not accept it. So the 1 bid is actually local, RJ McDonald, at the price of $3.49.9. That's about 60 cents more than we are paying the current year. So I didn't think that it was too bad at this point. My fellow colleagues who are still bidding with French River, they haven't gone out to bid yet, and they're all putting in about $3.50 or $4 in their budgets to start anyway. We also issued a request for quote to replace the Hardwick Elementary main door assembly. The door's kind of been deteriorating over time. We did open the bids Tuesday. It's going out to New System Associates, doing business as NSA Commercial Door and Hardware in Indian Orchard for $19,600. Our original proposal, when a contractor came out and looked at the job, was about $18,500, I believe, so that's not too far out of the ballpark. The other 2, however, were $35,000 and $45,900, so it must have been gold doors that we were putting in with those. The third one is the tutoring services RFQ that Mr. Wyman talked about. It looks like the bid is going to go to Litera for around $45,000. We received 6 different proposals. The highest one was $365,000 for the same amount of time. We can't figure that one out either. In the buildings and grounds area,
One quick question, and this, it's nothing to read into it. On that second bullet, the town of Hardwick will be reimbursing the district. So I remember last month there was a conflict, or wasn't sure of who was going to be responsible, whatever. It sounds like that got resolved, that was resolved.
It did.
And, okay.
Superintendent, Mr. Clark, met with a representative from the select board and the town administrator and got that resolved.
And a resolution without a problem.
Yes.
Thank you.
In buildings and grounds, Mr. Clark is going to start meeting with principals to review the building and equipment needs and to add a prioritized project list to our capital plan. We know that we most likely won't be putting in any projects that aren't absolutely necessary into our budget next year due to other things that we know that are happening, including our oil bid. At the middle high school, Mr. Walsh talked about the camera project. You may remember that last spring we had a problem with our chiller tower. It was leaking and we needed to get it repaired. Well, it let go this fall. At this point, our mode of attack is to put in weld in a patch onto the tower. However, we've been told that we really need to look at replacing that system. The estimate to replace that system is $400,000. Given that we have this project that really needs serious consideration for next fiscal year, and that we have our press box bleacher system project out there as well, I reached out to our financial advisor at Unibank to ask if both projects qualified for long-term funding. They do, and we can actually wrap it into one band anticipation note rather than bonding. We may get a better price on a band anticipation note, and we can go out to 10 years with a bond anticipation note. So we do have options on how to finance these, other than trying to get it through the towns under our budget, our general operating budget. Although we would need to make decisions about this as we talk about budget, and we have meetings, we'll be going into more detail on this. We would need to have the school committee take a vote to borrow, and then also each of our 5-member towns would need to take a vote to borrow, which would make sense to do at annual town meetings. So we're going to get this rolling as soon as we can. Another project that was done just recently is the sewer pit at the middle high school. We had to replace the motor, the lines, and the floats for a cost of $16,000. At Ruggles Lane, we've had a pretty good month. Nothing great was happening there. In Hardwick, I mentioned the door project. I mentioned last month that we had a problem with the pumps, and it was due to a project that the town had done it several years ago when they anticipated putting in a propane boiler in the building, and that contractor at the time made a lot of changes to the pump system. Well, Mr. Clark had a contractor come out, and they're going to reinstall the manual controls that were removed during that project because we had a system problem with the computer that was in fault and we couldn't release it. That contractor was also able to do that for that as well, but we also have another mechanism to run those pumps for now. In addition, we did have a freeze over the Christmas break, the holiday break, winter break, whatever we want to call it. We had a pipe burst in one of the far out ranges of Hardwick. We had 2 classrooms that got a little bit flooded, but more important, those were okay. We were able to save the flooring and the carpeting. But we did have about $5,000 worth of damage to Chromebooks, which had to immediately be replaced so that they were there when the students came back in January. I reached out to our insurance agent to say, hey, should we put in a claim for this? With a $2,500 deductible for $5,000, I'm just afraid that our impact on our premium renewal for putting in the claim may be offset any savings that we would have there. So Mr. Walsh and I decided to move forward with just getting them replaced. In Hubbardston, Dr. Muir, Mr. Clark, and myself met with the new town administrator. His name is Nathan. He goes by Nate Boudreau, and also the treasurer collector, Mrs. Sandy Nason, because the boiler at Hubbardston Center School has problems. It's the larger boiler that has 13 sections, 2 of which are leaking. We do have a way to repair it for the time, as long as it doesn't get extremely cold in the month of January and February. I was quite shocked that Mr. Boudreau asked us to get him a price on replacing the whole boiler. That was not the usual question I get when we talk to towns about replacing or repairing something in their schools. So Mr. Clark is looking into doing that. We found out that the boiler was probably installed when the renovation was done in 1990, because it is a 1989 boiler, well past its prime. So that may be a better return on investment. The town is also working with the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission on a light replacement project in the school. There are about 300 fixtures that have been identified to be replaced. And at this point, we don't know what the return on investment for the town will be at that point, because there was a little misstep in that proposal. Over in New Braintree, we're adding a new sub-panels, lines, and circuits to accommodate the need for additional electricity for the post-secondary program. They're doing so much over there. They've been tripping the breakers lately. So for a mere $1,800, we're going to give them some extra power so those guys can do whatever they need to do. During the April break, our plans are to replace flooring in 2 classrooms in Oakham Center School. School nutrition, I've provided you with the update for the average participation in our schools for both breakfast and lunch. There actually was a dip in December. There were less less days for service. However, that doesn't impact the average daily participation, but also a lot of students were out during the month of December, so that could have come into it. We finally got our new serving line in that we ordered last year. We are making a new point of service within the cafeteria itself, hoping to reduce the long lines in the cafeteria and hopefully increase some participation. I was told that that should be up and running tomorrow. If it is, I'm going to go over and check it out. We do have continual problems with supply chain issues. The state is going to release another round of grants due to supply chain issues, and it's really used for to combat the impact of the price increases that we're seeing. Ms. Dubois Gould, I believe she's still online. She provided me with some data here. Back in the early months of school, romaine lettuce cost $22 a case. It's now more than $100 a case. Needless to say, we're not serving romaine lettuce right now. The prices have recently started to drop. We are in the DOD Fresh program where we get a lot of our fresh fruits and vegetables from the government, but their price is $77 a case. Our current contract is at $44, but the quality is not there. So Ms. Dubois Gould, she struggles with, do I pay twice as much for lettuce and waste money, or do I, use the subpar lettuce? And also, if we don't use our DOD dollars, we lose it in June. So every day she does that. Every day she says, I've been online 15 minutes trying to get just a case of X. And sometimes she actually gets the case of X and then it doesn't get delivered on the truck. So it's been very difficult this school year. The status of the fundraising for the press box, as of this morning when I asked, we had $6,800 worth of donations towards our press box. I do have another item. On November 22nd, a 30-year Quabbin teacher and coach, Mr. Joe Duhamel, passed away. His family suggested donations to the Marita Duhamel Scholarship in his obituary. We do not hold such a scholarship. I was able to speak with Mr. Devine, who knew a lot about this, and what that was Mr. Duhamel's wife. So when she passed away, he started this scholarship privately. We did not hold it. So he worked with the guidance department, set the parameters, the application process, chose the winners, and wrote a personal check to the students. But the family didn't know that, so I've got a stack of checks on my desk written out to the Marita Duhamel Scholarship, which we don't have. So I would like the committee to consider taking a vote to approve and accept the donations towards our Marita Duhamel Scholarship. Another little part of this is somebody else wanted to start a scholarship in Mr. Duhamel's name. We tried to get the two groups together, but we have not been able to contact him. So
move the scholarship. Second.
Thank you, Dr. Allen.
And then roll call?
So, okay, just the question. So we are setting up the scholarship post check arrival.
Yes, the checks have not been cashed. They're still sitting on my desk.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other question?
There's $2,100 right now.
Any other question on that? Since it's now established of a fund, we should put a formal vote on that. Roll call?
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you for that. And now I will ask the guidance department to reach out to Mr. Duhamel's daughter, who Mr. Devine has been talking with, to set the parameters around the approval of that. You were asked me to provide the committee with a monthly report of grant awards received. I have been adding the new ones in bold. There's only one. It's down on number 419. It's an Innovation Pathways Implementation Grant that started December 1st and will go through June 30th for $50,000, but that's the only one. Okay, warrant report. Since our last meeting, biweekly payroll warrants 13 and 14 were released, and weekly number 22 through 28. Accounts payable 38B, 39A, 40H, we have a new letter. Blue Cross Blue Shield will no longer accept checks for payment of our $1 million premium. So we had to set up an ACH payment. And we have, all of these things that have to be paid by ACH or by debit or things like that have to be done as a separate warrant itself. So we've chosen H for the health insurance check, and that was processed this month. They were actually, they were very mad that our check didn't make it on time, and they were very mad. They were going to start imposing fees. So to continue, 41B, 43A, 44B, 45FQ, 46FR, and 47FU, and that ends my report.
Any comment from Cheryl?
This for today, before my nap.
Seeing none, but I do want to comment on the warrant officer.
He's very efficient.
Thank you.
It speaks to the staff, because between Nicole and Stacy, it's like clockwork. It's just so efficient.
Hey, I sent one last week.
Yeah, and you let me sign that one electronically.
Did.
You did. You gotta pass that on.
I don't remember how to do it, but
Again, thank you, Mr. Champ, for being part of the warrant process.
Like I said, 4 before the nap this afternoon. I did 4 of them.
So beautiful for that.
And as you can see in your report, Mr. Myville, who of course is attending to athletic events this evening, has given you an update on to where our winter athletics currently stands. There's a few links in that report that will give you an overview of the rosters, our coaches, our schedules. So I'm not going to get into that in great detail. You certainly can read it, but our middle high school is a very busy place this time of year with all of the athletes and athletic events. There's 9 teams and 165 students currently participating, so that's wonderful. And big wrestling meet on Saturday with, I think, 8 schools competing. So if you can have nothing to do on Saturday, come up to the high school.
Good.
You want me to say something about Joe?
If you like.
Sure. We just set up the scholarship. Some of you know Joe. Some of you probably don't. He was a great guy. He's a big guy. Used to play basketball down in the little Oakham gym. And there was one time, Kenny something or other, he was a good sized guy. He's about 6'3", 240, 250. And we had these hotshot kids came out of Worcester. They came up and boy, they were going to show us. Now Joe and this other fellow, we blocked the basket. They couldn't get there. They didn't have an outside shot. And he used to wear Farmer John's when he played basketball. He was a big guy. He coached the golf team here, and he was sort of the basic math. But he related to the kids that really needed somebody. He was a woodsman. He would go out, he'd chop. Some kid he'd take him out in the woods and have him chop wood with him. But he was a bright fellow, but he just could relate to a certain level of student. And he would make sure that they did what they were supposed to, the way they were supposed to, when they were supposed to. And he was just a really good guy, really good guy. So that's the fellow that we lost. He retired, what did we say, a dozen years ago?
At least, probably more than that now.
Only been about 15.
Time does march on, doesn't it?
Yes.
So anyway, for those of you who don't know him, I just wanted to explain a little bit about who this fellow was and why he lived just over here. But why he was a good guy for our school, because he was not a pretentious kind of person. He was really down to earth, basic kind of guy. And many kids just need somebody like that really cared for them and would look out for them and look out for their interests. And boy, I almost didn't care what he taught or how he taught. He was just so important in our school population, in my opinion. And that's the fellow we just set up the scholarship for, and the fellow that we just lost.
Absolutely.
Thank you for those kind words and recognition. Mr. Hamel, to Hamel. Thank you, Superintendent.
That concludes
For
our
everything.
report. Thank you.
I know we don't have a student advisory. We'll hear it next month. Teacher advisory?
We do not have, Mr. Barringer is basketball coach this season, so he is not.
Subcommittee reports, administrative review and audit was already done. Budget.
I talked to Cheryl earlier, and she said we'll probably have a meeting by the end of the month. Teachers are now putting together, the principals are now putting together their budgets.
Oh, they're done. We're just meeting with them on
Okay,
it now.
they're
Do
meeting.
you have any dates?
Reviewed.
You want any ready for any dates now, or you want to hold off?
24th or the 31st,
What day is the 24th?
the Tuesdays? I know you asked to stay away from Wednesdays.
Either one, whichever is, 24th is probably better. No?
Can we do
Can you
24th?
do it by 24th?
I don't know.
I am? Okay, perfect.
Right,
Works for me.
24th at,
I mean, if it becomes crisis, just let me know, we'll do the 31st.
and time, 5:30?
30, yeah, how about 6? Because I'm afraid I might have to babysit, coming back from New Hampshire by 5:30.
6 o'clock.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Make it another time.
So January 24th, 6 PM tentatively, but that will be posted. And thank you, Mark, and getting on that. And I know they're updating everything. Central office, nothing. Collective bargaining,
Do you want to wait till Nancy gets in tomorrow and check her schedule? All right.
good.
And the only thing we have to think about is Mondays off, but then the rest of the week is okay for Lee.
Yep. Today's okay with me.
Tuesdays are not for me.
Okay.
Oh, I should say in the afternoon, but don't worry about it. I can.
What are we looking at next week?
Yeah, but I'll have Nancy look at her and Sheila and Cheryl look at their schedules for next week and then give them a chance to look at it tomorrow morning.
Plant and facilities, and I'm gonna turn it over to Walter, but it's kind of probably my fault. I apologize. I know there was gonna be a name change for, am I correct? There was like a name change. It was tried to plant and facilities to be
Yeah, I think,
Building.
buildings and grounds.
building its grounds, which,
Oh, did I not change it on the agenda? Sorry about that.
That's okay. No.
does it have to be a motion or
Well,
can we just like say,
I think as a committee ourselves, I think if we, it's still the same, nothing's changed, we're just naming it. It's still doing its job, and so buildings and grounds, that's okay.
that's fine with me.
Okay. My apologies for not catching that, Jess.
That's okay.
You mentioned to me last
My
month.
apologies for not catching it myself.
Over to you.
We have no report.
No report. Here I am feeling bad, guilty.
Me too.
I own up. But, okay. Policy review and reform?
Building and grounds.
I feel like a character from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. There's a line in there. Well, I'm getting to that. I read this in 1961, so my memory, I think, is correct. There's a line in there about instead of moving forward, does one move backwards like a crab? And I didn't realize it. Apparently crabs move backwards through life. But anyway, I look at the document that it is Thursday, December 8, 1922. And I was quite sure that we had gone through New Year's and we were in 2023 and not 2020. But anyway, be that as it may, we have somewhere between a passel and a whole bunch of policies to be removed from the table and adopted. And you can see them on item 8. I don't think I need to read them all.
Oh, no, that's an
That's your
old,
old agenda, Dr. Allen.
it's an old, yeah.
I left it in your packet because you weren't here last month, so I just left the packet in there. So the new one, we have no policies
We took
to
care of that.
approve. Yep.
Well, that was the one.
We took care of that.
We took care of it.
Well, I fear not to have the updated one, so I'm not only not a crab,
I put the packet in here. Okay, I'll double check it. Maybe it got put on the bottom or something.
There's nothing to update.
well, I didn't think so, which is why I was so crab-like in my. We will be meeting in February, and that will be our final meeting until October, so next month.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. Student services.
Nothing tonight, Mark.
Okay. Technology.
Well, you heard the update from Andrew about the survey, the camera system, and it is very impressive. I did get a look at it. The only other update is that the developers of the website are still developing.
Okay.
And we should have some type of finalized product close to our next meeting.
Thank you.
That's it.
And it's nice seeing the new Quabbin.
Great.
In various places, it really is. Ad hoc school district configuration.
Yeah, I have a brief update. I won't do hopefully as bad as the preliminary plans and facilities / buildings, grounds, and policy review discussions. That led to nowhere. Anyway, so just roughly around December 12th, we went to, the subcommittee visited OCAM and New Braintree Elementaries. We were able, the principal, Trish, walked us through OCAM. We got to look at pretty much the entire building. Part of the process is, part of what we're doing is kind of looking at school space. And because over the years we've heard, gee, there are these chunks of classrooms that nobody's using, or there's space here, so we get to walk through. And OCAM Center School is like, really, it's set up very nicely. There's a lot of good use of the classroom space. Some things are really a lot different than I guess I would imagine. The library setup is really, we thought, very nice. It's a huge room. There's stuff set up for both like the fifth graders, the way the books are set up, their reading set up, and for the younger kids. We got to walk through, we chatted with a few fifth graders just to try to get a feel of how they feel like they're top dog now, because the sixth graders in the middle school, and they seem to be handling that very well. And a couple did speak to the proposition that, yes, the younger kids would be looking at them as fifth graders, and they're cognizant of that. Walter and I took a little a sidewalk into the gym and looked at the cracks that are in the gym floor on the basketball court, which to me are kind of amazing. When we saw them, I'm still, I guess, not sure exactly. I mean, there's theories as to why they're there, but I don't know for sure. Not exactly sure, but that looks a little weird. And from there, we went to New Braintree Elementary, and we got to see some of the preschool kids, and they were really pretty cool because they had these 5 adults walking in. They kind of looked, acknowledged us, and then turned their heads and got into their reading. And pretty much without saying it, it was like, okay, you people can go away now, which is what we did. And acknowledging that there's a lot more room for a lot more preschool kids, and we know that's going to hopefully develop down the road. And then we went, once again, looking at some of the classrooms, and we stopped in at the post-grads. It looked like a number of things going on. One of the main things was that I was paying attention to was there were a number of the kids were learning how to, it was either bake cookies or brownies, I'm not sure which, and it was the whole thing about, doing the proper spray so they don't stick, et cetera, and it was pretty cool to watch. And of course it was pre-holiday time, so I'm assuming there were going to be some holiday cookies and brownies there. And we got Mr. Devine was there, and we spoke with him pretty extensively, and speaking towards what we could do for the post grads, looking at some sort of, for lack of a better term, some sort of occupational situation that they can roll out from the school building. And there are a number of ideas that Greg is looking at, and we talked about grants, and part of the whole thing is he's trying to get an idea of what grants are available. He's spoken with fellow administrators in other school districts on what some of their post-grads are doing and what they're approaching. So there are a couple of good ideas that I think that we're pursuing, and we'll see where that goes. There was one thing that I think we definitely are not going to pursue, and that's a horse racing track in the area. Probably won't do that. But it was a nice visit. On a personal note, I taught maybe 5 or 6 years out of college, and I love going back into schools. And I know there are teachers here and retired teachers here, but and I hate to use the word, but it works well, the dynamic that goes on in the schools. Like just walking down the corridor with Trish, and kids are walking by, and there's like a little banter of give and take, and you see a teacher and a couple other kids, oh, what's going on, this and that. And to me, it's great to see some of these kids who are, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and they have a discourse. It's a respectful discourse with these adults that are walking through. And I just marvel at the way some of these kids handle themselves. I mean, they're just really great. And so it's when I spent more time in the middle of high school pre-COVID, and when COVID hit, I pretty much missed just being able to walk through a school building. My kids were in the elementary school, the same thing. I can go into Ruggles. I used to go in there quite often. And just watching the kids interact with each other. We walked into at OCAM, the cafeteria. I think it was the last cafeteria period, and to the uninitiated, they might look and say, "What is going on?" But pretty much you see this controlled chaos, because that's essentially what it is. It's the teacher knowing how much to allow these kids to do, because it's kind of their free time outside of the classroom, but still keeping control of what's going on there. And it's just it's pretty neat to watch that. And so I think our next step is setting up with the superintendent to go through the middle high school, where we can set something up, and we kind of want to key in on especially the 6th grade, and maybe have a little more discourse with students there as to how they feel being in the middle school at that level. So we'll have to get together and see what a good time is for that.
Okay.
Anybody else, if I missed anything, feel free to chime in.
Trish does a very good job.
She walked us, all the way through pretty much, and it was good.
I knew her from when she was my son's special ed teacher in Ruggles Lane. And when he left, he said, "Oh, she's the best teacher I ever had."
Thank you for the report. And just when you talked about the 6th grade and looking at that, I've been reading some articles. It's nice getting some of these other articles you get. But there's other districts that are moving to a 6 through 8 kind of model. Because there are 5 through 8 configurations. There's, but lately there's been moving to 6th grade and moving having the 5th grade be the top grade in an elementary school. And I believe I just read an article. I think Amherst schools are about to do something. I think Amherst, that's close. So it is nice that again, speaks to the leadership, the team, the shared governance of looking what is best for space and utilization and what makes sense educationally. So that's a good way to kind of keep looking and kicking the tires on that. Unfinished business, we have none. Public comment? Do we have anybody?
No, I don't see anyone. No.
School committee concerns? Walter?
I just have a question for Dr. Muir. Is there a plan to move the kindergarten, 1st grade from Ocam back into New Braintree?
No.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the budget and I thought I saw something about that. I don't know. I guess I read it wrong or something.
The budget?
You're looking
I probably read it wrong.
at what budget last,
just-
this, the current year's budget?
The one you have on, that's online,
But that's for this current year?
yeah, I probably read it wrong.
No, there's no plan to move the, any, you know, make any configuration changes at all for next year.
Anyone else? Any other school committee members? Okay. New business, we have the 23-24 school calendar. Superintendent?
We have a proposed school calendar. I will pull it up on, hopefully I can pull it up on my screen. Oh, is this the? It is in the drive and in your.
Friday before Labor Day.
Okay.
This one? Yep, go back. Now go back. There, it's on the screen, right?
Where are we? The good old days.
Wednesday.
We have a whole week. No, we have less.
Huh?
We used to have a half a day on Wednesday.
All right, so this is
We got a whole week.
very similar to our current school calendar. The only significant change is that this school year, the current school year we are in, we did not have the Friday before. So we've gone back and forth different years. We have the Friday before Labor Day as a school day, and in some cases, it's not a school day. The way we have been working with the school calendar over the last several years is the administration drafts a few, Jess drafts a few versions, and then the administration reviews it and chooses two or three. And we present those to the QRTA. That is not something we're obligated to do. The QRTA only needs to approve the calendar if we have a start date that is after Labor Day. But, in the spirit of collaboration, we generally try to work with the QRTA as much as possible. This is the, Mr. Barringer, solicits input from his members. And this is the school calendar that was of the ones that we offered to them for review. This was the one that they preferred. So we would have two teacher professional development days the last week of August, and then students would start on the 30th and have 2 days of school that first week. And then there would be a long weekend an extra long weekend for the Labor Day holiday. As you can see, the December winter break is because the Christmas holiday falls on the 25th, which is a Monday. It's a little bit shorter. A winter break than we typically have. We have organized the early release days and extended days per our QRTA contract. Those are days when teachers work. Extended days are days when teachers work, depending on the level. Elementary teachers work an hour later. And middle high school teachers work 90 minutes later by the contract, the way the contract is currently written. And the same happens on early release days. We tack on, so 2 Wednesdays a month, teachers have an extended work day. The days that we have early release, we also have teachers working a longer day. So we have a very significant chunk of time for professional learning on those days that are designated as early release days in our calendar. Based on this if there are no snow days, we will end school on June 12th. Juneteenth is now, a holiday that we would have no school if we were to have 5 school days, which would put, 5 snow days, excuse me, which would put our end date at June 20th with 5 snow days.
Move to accept the calendar.
Okay, motioned and seconded. Comments?
Seconded?
Lee.
Lee,
I did.
any questions, comments regarding the school calendar?
Wasn't it like 3 years ago? I'm trying to remember. Didn't we have a stretch, a 1 year where we had 2 weeks off? Or I'm just, I mean, it's just kind of funny to look at this now and they barely have a week.
Yeah, that's,
Just,
was there any discussion about giving, looking at the 22nd?
We did not have any discussion
Okay.
about that. Generally, I think in the past, when it's been sort of, the holiday break has been, it generally is when Christmas is on a Monday. It's really just the 6-day break because of New Year's Day. But there have been times when, if we have a Tuesday, like the following year, when Christmas falls on a Tuesday, it's likely that we would have a significantly longer break. So it really happens to be when that Christmas holiday falls.
I mean, as a kid, you always wanted either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Exactly.
Not that far removed from those times.
Well, and it's the anticipation of the holiday too. I mean, leading up to it, the excitement of it and.
Any other question, comment on the calendar? Anyone on the virtual? School committee members? Seeing and hearing none? Roll call.
Dr. Allen?
No.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Wolanin?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
No.
Whoops. Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Jean-Francois? I think he meant to.
I think he has left the meeting.
Yeah, and Chairman Brophy?
Yes. Okay, and request for approval, school trip to Costa Rica, February break, 2024. Superintendent?
I'm just checking the meeting. I'm not sure if Ms. DeMorias is still with us. I don't think she is. So in your packet, and I will attempt to pull it up on the screen as well. This is a trip that has been approved previously. There is a variation to it. Let me, the Galapagos trip?
No, it's not. It has
It's
nothing to
not.
do with the Galapagos.
Oh,
I don't know
I'm
why she put
sorry.
that on there.
Okay. All right, well,
It's a
Thank
trip
you.
to Costa Rica. That's what, because I questioned the same thing about it,
okay.
but she just.
Well,
Yeah.
So Mrs. Petty.
Variation of
A
that.
variation, okay. So,
Yeah.
I guess there are similarities in sort of the climate that they will be immersed in. So it is a trip to Costa Rica. It would be on next year, February break in 2024. It would be coordinated by EF Tours, which is the tour company that we have used numerous times. And you can see a brief description about sort of the events that the students will participate in and the things that they will experience. There will be Patty Stoltz, who has led many of our international trips in the past, would be the trip leader, and we would have an additional chaperones up to one for every 6 students. And it would be about $3,500 for the trip. I think there are some pictures and additional detail about the trip here. I'll sort of scroll through here for you.
No.
Looks like a wonderful experience.
Is there a motion?
I wonder if a retired superintendent can
Move with the
chaperone.
usual provisos.
Is there a second?
Sure.
Okay. Dr. Allen made the motion again, to approve with the providing provisos for all the legal matters and coverages that need to be done. And also, we'll be looking forward to the report on this one. I'd love to hear. I would love to go myself and love to be a chaperone on this one. And I think I heard a little comments over here that somebody might want to go too. That'd be a nice trip. But again, it's awfully nice that we're able to support this. We're able to have folks that do it. We are a district that leads that way. And I'm glad that, we again can hear the experiences. Dr. Allen talks about the global experience. And so this really is another opportunity for kids to think outside not only the Quabbin experience, but of Massachusetts. Any comment? Roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
And Chairman Brophy.
Yes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Adjourn second and adjourn. Good evening. Good night.